everyone, welcome to Coach on Command. My name is Arron Littleton, and I am the head coach of the Gymnastics Sports Center Storm, two-time AGA champion, and your host for this hour of excitement and wonder. So as you can see, we have our normal panel back. So tonight, we're going to teach you some life lessons on Coach on Command. That's right, we're going to do your mama a favor. Yo mama, we're going to do yo mama a favor. Tracy can clip that. This one goes out to mostly the younger coaches, but us crusty coaches can have a problem with it as well. And that is, sometimes something comes out in a way you don't intend. Sometimes you let your emotions get the better of you. Sometimes you have no idea how you sound to other people. And sometimes you're trying to be a jerk and you succeed. So tonight, we are going to be talking about watching your tone. And so for the first question, Kaegan, you are our resident expert at making a fool of yourself and sticking your foot in your mouth. So tell me, why is it so hard for young coaches to just sound like a normal human being when they talk to people?
So I think some coaches, especially newer coaches, it can be awkward to assume the role of the leader at first. And in doing so, you may not necessarily know how to act. Maybe you're trying to emulate someone else, and that can come across as awkward and robotic. And maybe you're just regurgitating stuff that you've heard, and maybe you don't necessarily say it correctly. Maybe you miss words, maybe you paraphrase, and it just doesn't sound as correct. Or another thing, some coaches have built a personality over their tenure, and people know that based on how they speak, they're either referencing an inside joke with their students, and that doesn't land right whenever you say it. Any number of those things can happen. So you can come across some awkward coaching while you're trying to find yourself as a new coach. And that can also come across if you don't have something to emulate and you're just trying to fake it until you make it. Maybe you do that improperly at first. Maybe you come across more harsh than you intend to. Maybe you let your emotions get the better of you and you kind of rise up on your students a little bit and show more anger than you should ever do in the middle of a class. Another thing is, you want to think about what you're going to say before you say it so you can articulate yourself and soften your tone if needed. I'm not saying that you can't show emotion ever or show intensity sometimes, but you need to do so with a measured response.
You know, the thing about being a younger coach, and I think the reason that it's hard to get them to sound like a normal human being is because when you are a young kid, you know, when you're somebody who's just coming up, you are only partially human. And I say that because what makes you human is that you have experience and nuance, and you are lacking that experience and you are lacking that worldliness to know what is appropriate and what is not appropriate when you're a young coach. And so that comes with experience. And so you know, you've got to know what is appropriate and what is not. And but that's our job as the higher level coaches, as the people who are training the next level staff, to tell them, hey, that's not appropriate, you're not funny, quit trying to be funny, how about you do your job, you know, and until your job is stand-up comedian, get to work. There's one coach in particular that I have to tell that all the time, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but he has his own gravitational pull. So I bet you could figure it out. But yeah, so that's number one. Number two is that sometimes I will say something even after having 12 years of experience doing this and a lot in leadership roles. I will say something and it just comes out not the way that I meant it. You know, and so you say stuff, when you're in charge, you say a lot of stuff. And so on a balance of probability with the elevated amount of things that you say, some of those things you've got a heightened chance to say and be like, you know what, that wasn't what I meant. That sounded way too, way more angry. That sounded way more, harsh than I meant it. And so I think really what you can do in that sense is that obviously, you know, when you do that, admit that you said something wrong, apologize for that, and reiterate what you meant in a way that is not as offensive, and take accountability and try to learn from that, and that can really help you out in the current moment, because everybody's kind of stuck their foot in their mouth occasionally. Some of us are just professionals at it. And question number 2 is what are some tips? What are some tips for not sounding rude or obnoxious or insert otherwise derogatory adjective?
Children are very literal and very impressionable, so you have to be as careful as humanly possible with your words, or something is going to be misconstrued. If you do not care about your tone, feelings are going to get hurt.
Some tips that I would have for you is, one, you got to remember that they are students, right? And there is a certain level of respect students should have for a instructor or a teacher, but also these students are just people. So sometimes you can just relax a little bit, be yourself, and talk to them like humans. I feel like if you're trying to reprimand someone, sometimes being harsh about it's not necessarily always the best way. Sometimes just telling them person to person, hey, this could be better, and this is how I think it could be better. Can go a long way. Of course, case by case basis, not everyone receives news the same way, also depending on their age. Another thing, before you reprimand someone, learn to take a moment to relax. That way you don't say things out of frustration or anger. Relax, collect yourself, think about what you want to tell them, and then deliver it promptly in a way that makes sense. Another thing, there are times when you need to be firm with your students. I hate when that happens, but sometimes it has to happen. But there is a line between firm and harsh. Getting the work done and telling them, look, this is what we're doing today and we need to do it. We need to focus and we need to stay on topic is different from being harsh about it and coming across rudely.
And so the thing that I'm going to say is that and we say this sort of thing a lot, but it's true in a lot of different facets, and that's that you got to understand that not all of your students are the same. Not all of your gymnasts are the same, and you alluded to it just a second ago. And the thing about it is that I make jokes with our team girls that I would never make with anybody else other than maybe Kaegan. It's like they do a skill, and I'm like, that is the worst skill I've ever seen in my life. It's like these you can have certain liberties with making jokes. Obviously, just like us, we make some pretty rough jokes of each other sometimes, and but we've got a good rapport with each other, and so nobody takes it to heart, like you said with Kaegan.
Yeah, it comes back to that mutual respect for each other.
Right, and so the more that you interact with those people, and the more you start to feel a bond and the closeness with those people, generally speaking, the harsher the jokes get. The harsher you are more comfortable making a joke at somebody else's expense, and obviously the more they're willing to accept that. And so that's the thing. When you're a part of a team and you've worked with kids since they were in their teenage years, and you've worked with them since they were 6 or 7. You know them pretty well, and in fact, you probably know them better than most people, in their lives. And, you spend a lot of time together. You've been through ups and downs. You've been through battles together, and part of that builds a certain amount of camaraderie within your team. And so with those girls, I would be way more comfortable making a joke like that than with just a beginner. I wouldn't see like a beginner who the first time in my gym, that's terrible. What do you do? That's terrible. Again, Leroy Jenkins didn't come back. It's not a good way to get people to like you. But once you have a certain rapport with them, a certain relationship, you can take some liberties with them that you wouldn't with other people. And so you got to know, number one, who you're talking to, and so sometimes your tone, and I mean, it just depends on what you're trying to say, who you're trying to say it to. But I think as far as tips go, number one, ask yourself how this could be construed or misconstrued. The preacher at the church that I attend always says it's not enough just to speak to be understood. You have to speak to be not to be misunderstood. And so, I always kind of ask myself before I say something, if I'm like, oh, that's a funny joke, maybe I should make that. I'm like, how can this be misconstrued? How can people, think I'm a horrible person? How, whatever, even though that's not what I'm saying. And so I think that can really help you out, and part of that is discernment. And Braden's not here, but I talked with him today about discernment, understanding what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. And so you really have to kind of have an on deck circle for the things that you're going to say, and be like, consider the source, consider who you're saying this to, maybe consider who you're saying it in front of,
Also, just their mood at the time.
That is also true. Yeah. So there's an infinite number of factors that could go into it. And so if you're trying to really watch your tone and make sure that you don't put yourself in hot water, sometimes I will be like, that's a funny joke in my head, and be like, you know what? Not going to do it. And, a lot of times people who are having a tone don't realize they're having a tone. And I realized this working with all of the wonderful teenage young men that we work with. Just try to have some foresight in what's going on. And I think that's a hard thing to get coaches to do when they've never had to think about what they were saying. They just, it's almost like word vomit. It's like I just think thing and it just falls out my mouth, and so you've got to kind of get them to revise the way that they think about what they say and how it could be misconstrued. And once you do that, I think that your tone gets a lot better. And also the other thing is, and Mr. Cronin taught me this, is smile when you talk. Mr. Cronin, he would have, I'm going to give away some of his secrets. He would have these kids like running around his class or whatever, and not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and he would sit them down like right in front of their parents, and he big smile on his face, and he goes, "If you don't quit running around my class, I'm gonna eat you." And he was like, you can say almost anything as long as you say it with a smile on your face. And the kids were kind of freaked out. They're like, this guy might be crazy. I better do what he says. And so maybe that's not necessarily the way to go about it. But I think, if you smile, especially if you don't know the person that you're talking to, it makes you seem much more disarming. And people are less likely to assume that you meant some sort of malintent by what you said. So, lastly tonight, and this should be interesting. Obviously, we and everybody else were once young coaches and young people, and we have said a bunch of stuff I'm sure that we have gotten reprimanded for, and so we're going to tell you some of those times for your viewing pleasure right now. And so Kaegan, tell me what's the worst time, or maybe a time in the gym or otherwise, where you got called on the carpet for your tone?
So there was a joke made earlier about me being on that Dory mindset. And that's like a legit thing because I couldn't come up with anything. I know for certain that I have tone issues, obviously. See question 1. But like I can't pinpoint an exact time. But I know I've been talked to about it.
Yes, that person that talked to him was me. Because he's just walking around, hey, do this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, you've got to soften your tone a little bit, especially when you're dealing with people's kids. They don't want to, people don't like feeling like they're screamed at. And so if you're not trying to come off as like you're screaming at them. And so, yes, this has been an ongoing battle with not only Kaegan, but the rest of our staff too, where I have to go up to them and I'm like, hey, you sound kind of like a jerk right now. And that goes back to I will hear my words. And like I said, they will hear me say something to our team girls who I've coached forever and ever, and I know their parents, and I know everybody. We're like a family, and they'll hear me say something to them, and they'll bring it to a beginner class and go, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? It's just like, bro, discernment. That is not the time to use that. It's like, listen. Professor Oak came here and you tried to pull the bike out. He said, no, that is not the time to use it.
It's like what I said during the first question. You try to emulate someone else, perhaps that has more experience. Maybe it doesn't land the same.
No, absolutely. And I've seen and heard. I've been in the office like working on paperwork, and I just hear something, and I just go, Nope. But yeah, so you really got to kind of figure out what is okay and what is not, and I think that's that's something that is going to require somebody else to help you with, probably.
I think that getting called out while coaching in front of your kids is not necessarily such a great thing, but in my opinion, a much worse thing is if you are trying to teach new coaches and someone calls you out while you're instructing these new coaches. That is probably the worst imaginable situation, in my opinion, because to me, that undermines the new coaches. It undermines their confidence in you to lead them and instruct them. And that just puts you at an uphill battle. It can mess with their respect for you. It can mess with their confidence in what you're trying to teach them and how you're trying to teach them. And that can make all of that fall apart very quickly.
Oh, I think that's true. Anything that undermines, your authority is something that's hard to deal with, And yeah, I've got a couple stories. The first one is when I was a young coach, you try to find the ways to pass the time, and maybe you're not thinking of, because the way the gym was set up, the gymnastics sports center was set up in 2012 when I got there, was bars, and I got put on bars all the time, and bars were like in the far corner, like there was nobody around me. It was just me and 4 children, and they're not very funny, and so you've got to find ways to entertain yourself while you coach. And so and sometimes inevitably, and I don't know if y'all dealt with this or not, if kids are more forthcoming or not now, but when I was actually on station grinding it out in the old GSC, every once in a while I get a kid who would refuse to tell me their name. I try to learn your name, so, not only I can have authority over you, but also because, it's a good thing for me to know who I'm working with. And so I'm like, hey, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And if they've been there a few times, you probably know most of them. But the new kids come in, you're like, what's your name? And like, no, I'm not going to tell you my name. And so I just give them a nickname.
Give them an embarrassing nickname.
Yes, right. And I'll never forget, I got called on the carpet 2 different times for giving by Mr. Cronin. Mr. Cronin, poor Mr. Cronin, he had to get on to me quite a bit. But yeah, it's like you cannot call children. You can't. And most of the time, and the other thing is if you had 2 kids in the same group with the same name, it's like, I'm Matt and Matt. I'm like, I'm not doing Matt and Matt. You're Matt and Steve. You're Matt and Bob, whatever. And so a couple times I got in trouble for that. Goodness knows I probably should have been in trouble more than that. But yeah. So some people don't like nicknames. If they don't like nicknames, then don't give them one. But so that's story number 1, and this one is a little bit more specific. Story number 2 is that so when I first started at the GSC, about a year in, I became in charge of beginners, and so I wasn't a team coach. I was basically the person who herded the cats. That was me. I was the shepherd. I was the cat shepherd, and you're just trying to get people to be where they need to be. I think I mentioned that a couple episodes ago. But the thing about it is that the way that it worked is me and Mr. Cronin both did that. And so normally in a beginner class, you have 2 groups of kids that need the most maintenance, that need the most help. And so when you're in charge of that class, you try to facilitate the help for that group, if that makes sense. And so in those 2 groups are the very young kids. Normally, you're just like the goalie, as Bill Cosby said, and you just, keep them in play. But the other group is the larger kids, especially if you've got a smaller coach who can't spot them on. Back then we were doing back handsprings on a wedge in beginners and all that, and so you'd have smaller kids, and so Mr. Cronin, he divided the labor that he would hang out with the 3 and 4-year-olds, because that's what he wants to do. He loves 3 and 4-year-olds, and hey, do this roll, and then he'll challenge them to a handstand contest or push-ups or something. That's what Mr. Cronin does. And so he put me with the bigger kids, and I was supposed to help facilitate anything that the coaches that were on the station couldn't do. So this has been going on a couple months, and and as I was trying to find my own voice as a coach, I found I didn't want to gush all over the kids, and so I became more sarcastic, and I would tell, you see this persona on the podcast all the time, but I was workshopping it at the time, and so and some of the kids, it's like, you make jokes with them and stuff like that. Well, Mr. Cronin pulls me aside one day, and I'd been doing this, I don't know, several months at that point, and he's like, I got a call from my mom today, and I was like, oh, and I've always been terrified of being like reprimanded. I'm very much a self-starter, and so if somebody's like, you did something wrong, I'm like, what? And so he was like, I got a call from my mom today complaining about you. And I was like, what? Like, why? And he goes, it was a very interesting conversation. And the conversation started out with, your coach that is normally with my child hates my daughter. And no, hang on to your hat because it gets better. And so it's like, your coach hates my daughter because he's always so mean and condescending to her, and that goes back to tone. Okay, I probably didn't have the tone that I needed, but I was still out here slinging jokes and did not have nearly the finesse that I do now. And so she took it as, apparently the child and then the mom took it as that I was being mean to the child. Well, then, are you ready for this? And so Mr. Cronin was like, no, ma'am, he's not, I've known this, and I went to church with Mr. Cronin. He knew me for many years before I actually started working with him. And he was like, no, that's not the type of coach this is. I assure you, there must be some misunderstanding. Well, then, when he kind of put the kibosh on that, she goes, are you ready? Are you ready for this? Not only does that coach hate my daughter, he is also madly in love with her. And it's like, yes, that's correct. At the time, I'm 24 years old, and I'm madly in love with, I don't know, a 10-year-old or something like that. But I mean, this lady was completely delusional on every level. And I mean, this has been a long time ago, but I will remember that story and Mr. Cronin goes, and then I just shut down the rest of the conversation. I was like, there is no way this is happening. But I tell you this, not only because it's ridiculous and funny, but I tell you this to get you to understand how important tone is, because, you can both hate and love somebody, apparently. And if you want to keep yourself out of all sorts of trouble, then watch your tone and listen to Coach on Command every Tuesday. All right. So now we are going to do randomly strong opinion of the day, and we've done all the good stuff, our favorite stuff, what we love, the top, and so now we are going to do the 5 worst something, because I don't know, we want to argue with Kaegan. And so, what are the 5 worst foods, Kaegan?
I don't like oatmeal. I think it's a garbage texture. Most of the time, it doesn't taste very good. It's probably just being made wrong, but I don't like oatmeal. Sauerkraut also sucks, and I don't have to explain that one because everybody agrees. Red herring. So,
oddly specific color of herring.
I know.
As if you're alluding to what a red herring is.
It's legitimately. I think it's actually technically like coastal herring or something stupid.
Does he know what red herring is? The literary device?
I know. But no.
What role does that play?
My dad and my brother buy these like literal tins of herring. And it tastes so bad, and it smells even worse, and it lingers for like 3 days. They can open one can and you will smell it in the kitchen for 3 days. 2, this is the one I'm going to get disagreed on. I don't like marshmallows. They're a horrible texture. They have no flavor. They ruin graham crackers and chocolate. I don't like marshmallows.
I don't know. I don't think that's that unreasonable because they do have a weird texture.
I've been yelled at,
But
because
marshmallows by themselves are just okay.
I like a good marshmallow, but yeah, whatever.
You know, drop a couple marshmallows and some hot chocolate.
I don't like hot chocolate.
Okay, now we have problems.
I know.
Tracy and his hot chocolate and tea. We got these warm beverages going on here.
Okay. So, my least favorite food is green bean casserole. And there is so much wrong with it.
Is it the green beans or the casserole?
I like green beans.
Okay.
I really like
So
green
the
beans.
casserole it is, the onion soup, right?
Essentially, it's the concoction of flavors blended and then baked with stuff on top of it. It's just an odd mix of textures and flavors, and the aftertaste is gross. It's just, see, but it's not casserole because I like sweet potato casserole. Ta-da! I think I've gotten like 3 genuine laughs this episode.
Okay, I'm gonna borrow a joke that I've heard before, but it is.
You don't borrow from Kaegan. We can't take it.
No. Why? See, this joke is more than just a joke. It is also the truth.
Okay.
You guys ever have Spam before? Meat should not come in a can. Okay, first off. But also, this is not meat. This is Spam, stuff posing as meat. Spam is an acronym, okay? And it's not real meat. It makes this weird sound whenever it comes out of a can. It's got a jelly on top of it that's awful, has bad texture, has bad taste. There's no saving Spam. Some people say if you fry it up, it's just like ham, except that it's not. Okay, it's nothing like ham. It's awful. Number 2, veggie pizza. If you're
I thought veggie pizza was the number 1.
If you're gonna go through the trouble of making a pizza, why would you skip the most important ingredients and not put the meat on there? I'm not saying that I dislike vegetables.
Because I'm Jewish, Tracy.
It's because he's Jewish. Number 3, green olives. I don't like green olives. I don't like the way they taste, and I can't stand the way they smell. They're awful. Ugh, it makes my skin crawl just thinking about them. Black olives are reasonable, but green olives are not. They're not the same. Don't tell me they're the same, okay?
They're not the same.
They're not the same. Black olives are okay, especially diced up and mixed into something, but green olives, ugh. The next one would be canned spinach. All right, fresh leafy spinach. Oh, a shrimp and spinach salad with some strawberry dressing on it. Delicious. Okay, I love me some spinach, but canned spinach oh gosh, that stuff is disgusting. I remember my mom used to tell me that when I was young, if I eat my spinach, I grow up and be strong like Popeye. And I've made the Popeye joke before, but anyways, she told me that, and I remember trying to eat this stuff. It's just so repulsive that I couldn't. I did try, I literally tried knowing that I'd hate it, but I just couldn't stomach it. It would literally make me not happy. Anyways, number 1, raw red onions. Raw red onions are awful. I can't stand them. If they're on my burger, if they're in my salad, if they're in my anything, I will find it and I will pull it out because it's awful. No, they're terrible. So, white onions, yellow onions, awesome.
Green onions.
Dice them up, green onions, sure, whatever. Dice them up, caramelize them a little bit. Amazing. Raw red onions, if it's in there, I'll know. Don't try to sneak it past me. I'll find it.
I'm gonna sneak it past him one day. I'm gonna come with a casserole.
Can you cook?
Yeah, actually.
I would say let's put that to the test and get Kaegan to cook us something, but I don't want to.
Cooks on command. Let's go.
Cooks on command.
Same email address.
That's our side hustle.
I'd be down for that.
Because I am obviously the most experienced food critic of this podcast. So yeah, number 5 is artichokes, and I do agree with a lot of what y'all said. That is a bunch of nasty mess, as my mom would say. Yeah. So yeah, artichokes, and my mom will actually know this story. I had this sandwich. No, it was a calzone. That's what it was. From I forget, it's like Panera or somewhere like that. And I dig into this, okay? And I'm like, what is this? It tastes like soggy cardboard. It's like weird. It's like green, weird flavor and stuff. She's like, oh, that's artichoke. I was like, I don't ever want to have an artichoke again in my life. So that's number 5 is artichoke. Number 4, and Tracy's going to get real mad at me, I'm going to do a food category, and that is anything that is soggy. I hate soggy stuff. And by that, I mean like dumplings. I don't like dumplings, and I don't like cereal with milk on it.
You're wrong.
Tracy, milk then cereal or cereal then milk?
Cereal and milk.
Okay.
Or you're wrong.
And so here's the thing. I don't like soggy stuff. I don't like it, okay? So so I have and so generally when I eat cereal, I eat the cereal dry, but then I have a glass of milk, and so it's functionally the same.
Except that it's not.
No.
So number 4, I don't like that. Number 3, and I feel like I'm going to get some pushback with this, except for from Kaegan because he doesn't know anything about food. Number 3 is ham.
I agree.
I don't.
You're wrong.
It smells horrible.
No.
It smells
my
delicious.
thing is ham is slimy, and I'm like really like a texture person. And so here's the thing: if it was hidden betwixt other stuff. That's right, I said betwixt. If it's hidden betwixt other stuff, like in a sandwich, I can deal with it. Like if it's, we'll go to meats or whatever. Sometimes they'll have like a ham sandwich, or like a ham and turkey sandwich or whatever. And as long as the turkey and cheese is there, whatever, I'll eat it. It's no problem. But yeah, if it's just like a big slab of ham, if you just chop me off a slab of pig, I don't like that unless it's bacon. Yeah, ham is not good. Number 2 is shrimp. Okay. And the reason, no, here's the thing. I don't like soggy stuff. I don't like things that like wriggle down my throat. I don't like that. I don't like that texture. Yes. And so shrimp, I mean, for the first thing, if they like, what would happen if they didn't devein the shrimp and you just eat like all the shrimp poop? What would happen?
You would have a full stomach.
So, yeah, I don't like the shrimp because it wriggles. And number 1, and I've got a story to go with it, I like to go to ballparks and eat the craziest food that they have there. But we were in Pensacola, Florida, 2019, and we were going to a Pensacola Blue Wahoos game, and we stopped at this place along the shore for I wanted to have some seafood, even though I don't really like seafood. But we're in Florida, I got to say that I ate seafood, So we stopped at this place, and I ordered, I believe it was crab cake. I don't like crab cakes. Crab cakes are good. And with the crab cake came like some macaroni or something. And in that macaroni, there's this beautifully fried chicken nugget on top of the macaroni. I'm like, sweet, man, I could go for a chicken nugget. And I eat it, and it's an oyster. And that thing is like if you fried snot. And I will never have another oyster. It was awful, and it was definitely awful to arrive at that way. I was like, chicken nugget, and it was like nothing could be further from chicken nugget.
Misconception.
Yeah. Right. So, if you're enjoying this podcast as much as we are enjoying putting it on for you, then please remember to comment, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, argue with Kaegan on TikTok. So we have an email.
AskCoc@yahoo.com.
AskCoc@yahoo.com. That was not like pulling teeth at all. Good job. And so that'll do it for us. Thank you so much for hanging out. Make sure you check out all of the awesome stuff that we're doing with Kaegan, and other stuff that's going to be going on. And so please stay tuned for still waiting on that bubble wrap. Kaegan learns a back handspring part 2.
And have a flippin' great day.
And don't forget to set. Take care.